Good morning, I will be the first to be presented this time. In this chapter, we have 5 objectives. Let's get started with the first one, personality. Personality is a person's unique psychological makeup and how it consistently influences the way a person responds to environment. It reflects individual differences. We don't have two persons that have the same personality. It's also consistent and enduring, but then it can change through our maturing process or life events like gave birth or marriage, divorce. Together with me, let's find an explanation for the influence of personality on customer behavior through. Let's go. Freudian Theory, which is created by a psychologist Sigmund Freud. This theory highlights the potential importance of unconscious motives that guide our approaches through 3 distinct systems. The id is driven by pleasant principle, which is about the immediate gratifications. In the superego, it represents our sense of morality, what we should or shouldn't do, and point out obligations to society. The ego is based on the reality principle and tries to balance the id and the superego. Let's take a look at the marketing application through TVC. This ad is all about making people feel good about themselves, successful, powerful, excited, and you can feel in the very most primitive nature of the ad for the right way gratification.
Tham vọng thành công hơn, tại sao không? Honda City mạnh mẽ chạy lối thành công.
Life as we know it today is very different from what it was in the past. We continue to change with the times because we know what a changing climate can take from us. We have come a long way in our water story.
In dream interpretation, Freud has shown an extremely dated attitude toward women and homosexuality, but frankly speaking, he was right with his assertion because we're masters of our own mind. Neofrontian Theory, which is developed by Karen Horney and Carl Jung, it emphasizes on the child-parent relationship, the social relationship that are fundamental to the formation and development of personality. It proposed into 3 personality groups. They are compliant, tend to move towards others, aggressive against others, and detached move away others. Let's go in details. Researchers say detached types are more likely to be a tea drinker as they have the least awareness of brands and are less involved in purchasing. As a human, we are designed to be loved or appreciated by others. In a recent study has shown that the compliant group tend to gravitate toward name brand products like toothpaste, mouthwash, or toilet paper.
Burberry Hero.
Trait theory, based on the quantitative measurements of personality, and describe personality as a combination of particular traits. To approach the measurement of this theory, we have the big 5 personality traits that you can see on the screen: openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. These 5 types of person play an important role to segment the market. However, it also has its drawbacks. The scale of measurements is not that reliable. It leads to the result is not stable, and the changes in instrument might dilute the validity of the measures. And that's it. Let's move on to find out more with my teammates.
Hi, my name is Suk and welcome to the second and third part of chapter 7. So let's begin with the second part, the prime personality. So a prime personality is a type of human characteristic attributed to a product, a typical person. For example, think of L'Oreal Paris. When you think of the product from this brand, you may think of a woman who is passionate, innovative, with a sexy and attractive appearance. So it's important for marketers to consider the brand personality, since they have to make use of the communications abroad name. brand storytelling. So what is brand storytelling?
Brand storytelling emphasizes the importance of giving a rich background to involve customers in a history or experience. In 2017, bidders introduced the more impressive marketing campaign, Go So Far to Return, or the Travel. Bidders' story is about that thing that we normally forget it presents. No matter how long you go, no matter how far you go, no matter who you are, there's always a place for you to return.
Next one about reader response theory, which is the basic of brand storytelling. It's a widely accepted theory that focuses on the role of reader in the story rather than just relying on the version of the author. So researchers call one common type of brand storytelling underdog brand biography. To simplify it, highlights significant beginning of the brand and how the brand overcome this difficulty to succeed. One typical example would be Apple. Apple is one of the most famous underdog stories. College dropout Steve Jobs and his friend incorporated the technology company Apple in a garage. However, this day Apple is one of the world's largest information technology companies by revenue.
Anthropomorphism refers to the tendency to attribute human characteristics to objects or animals. For example, we may think about cartoon characters or mythical creation as if it were a person and even assume that it has human feelings. So about sex-type products, it's a common tendency in particular to ascribe a gender to a product. One study shows that people tend to gravitate toward products that are the same as their gender.
Creating a brand personality is essential to increase brand loyalty. Marketers who can build a brand presence form a strong relationship with customers that is tough to break. So what is brand presence? It occurs when the brand truly speaks to some aspect of a consumer's individual life or culture in which he or she lives. So, however, when the brand doesn't live up to its claims or is somehow unauthentic, the strategy may become counterproductive. One set researcher termed this phenomenon doppelganger brand image. It's about the one that looks like the original, but in fact is a critic of it. Definition has two main elements. First one, negative image of the brand, and second, made by those who dislike the brand for some reason. For example, a designer rewrote the Pepsi logo to emphasize the direct relationship between the consumption of soft drinks and obesity.
There are some basic characteristics of the brands, including first one, old-fashioned, wholesome, traditional. Second, surprisingly lively with it. The next one, seriously intelligent, efficient. Another is glamorous, romantic, and sexy. And finally, rugged, outdoorsy, tough, and athletic.
So let's move to the next part, lifestyle and consumer identity. Lifestyle defines a patient consumption that reflects the person's choices of how to spend his or her time and money. These choices play a key role in defining consumer identity. A lifestyle is also a statement about who one is in society and who one is not. A lifestyle marketing perspective recognizes that people sort themselves into groups on the basis of things they like to do, how do they like to spend their free time, and how they choose to spend their disposable income. A goal of lifestyle marketing is to allow consumers to persuade their chosen ways to enjoy their lives or express their social identities. People, products, and selling combine to spread a consumption style like the diagram next to me. So next one about complementary and co-branding strategy. It's important for lifestyle marketing to identify a set of products and services that consumers associated with the specific lifestyle. So an attractive product may become more appealing when consumers link it with the product they do like, or consumers have a tendency to refer multiple products that are labeled with the same brand name because they believe that these set of items are deliberately developed to go together.
So next one is about co-branding strategies. It happens when marketers team up with other companies to promote two or more items. In some cases, marketers even match up their sports characters in some advertisement. So next one is product complementarity. It occurs when the symbolic meanings of different products relate to one another. For example, popcorn with movies, petrol with motorbike, and finally, a consumption constellation is a set of complementary products to define, communicate, and perform social roles. It's undeniable that the meaning of constellation perspective is significantly valuable because it offers marketers the consumer's references so that marketers can easily predict what consumers will like in other product categories as well.
So this is the end of my part. Let's move to the next part with my teammates.
My name is Fu and I'm going to talk about psychographics. So it goes beyond simple demographics to help marketers understand and reach different consumer segments. The first one I'm going to talk about is buyer persona. So it is a fictional profile of a core customer and it helps marketers develop products that appeal to different lifestyle. So here are some of them. The first one is for a e-commerce company and the next one is for a clothing company. And next is AIOS, and it stands for Activities, Interests, and Opinions, and it allows marketers to understand who is buying, the interests, or the activities they engage in. And then they will use this to, one, define the target market, two, create a new view of the market. So for example here, due to the trend of DIY, Home Depot came up with a new angle of selling products aiming at home improvement by yourself rather than by professionals. And here they can also help you to position the product, better communicate product attributes, develop product strategy, and finally, market social and political issues. And next are lifestyle segmentation typologies. And a very popular one is values and lifestyle system. So this will arrange groups vertically by their resources and horizontally by self-orientation. So you can see here are 8 groups that are divided into 3 columns. The first one is innovators. So they are successful consumers with many resources, and they are concerned with social issues and are open to change. Next to this are groups with lower innovation and resources like thinkers, experiencers, strivers and makers, etc. And the final one are strugglers, and they are most concerned with meeting the needs of the moment and more focused on the basic goods they need for survival. So the final part is value, and a value is a belief that some condition is preferable to its opposite, and about core values. So in many cases, values are universal, and what sets culture apart is the ranking of these universal values, and this set of ranking constitutes a culture's value system. So are you what you earn? About the value of materialism. So materialism refers to the importance people attach to worldly possessions, and high materialists prefer expensive products that they can properly consume. In contrast to that are minimalism. So it describes a simple lifestyle with an emphasis on getting rid of things you don't need. So for example here, the tiny house movement or living off the grid. So those mean that you have to cut down on the area or the electricity of the house. And there are many classic norms, for example custom or amore, which is a custom with a strong moral overtone. For example, like in Vietnam, you do not hide under a tree at night, or a more serious one like incest or cannibalism. And there are also convention, which is you have to put on clothes when you go outside. And much of what we know about this norm we learn as we observe the behaviors of actors in commercials or sitcoms, etc. And that's why marketing system is such an important element of culture. And how do values link to consumer behavior? So here are some attempts to measure values by researchers. So the first one is a Rockage Value Survey. So this is not a very popular one because our society is evolving into consumption microcultures. So for example here in Vietnam, a number of people strongly believe in natural remedies like food choice or not taking medicine when going down with flu, etc. And this really influences their behaviors or opinions on social issues. So the next one is a list of values. So these segments include consumers who place prioritize on the sense of belonging, excitement, and security, etc. And there are also the means and chain model, and the final one is the syndicated surveys. So these include the value and lifestyle system that we just discussed, but there are also the global scan or new wave, etc. And that's the end of chapter 7. Let's move on to chapter 8.
Next is Chapter 8, Attitude and Persuasive Communications. We will cover 3 parts as you can see. Let's start with the power of attitudes. An attitude is the lasting general evaluation of people, including oneself, objects, advertisements, or issues. Consumers have attitudes toward a wide range of attitude objects, from product-specific behaviors to more general consumption-related behaviors. Functional theory of attitudes include utilitarian function. We develop some attitudes toward products simply because they provide pleasure or pain. For example, by using Apple products, does consumers feel more innovative and supreme? Value expressive function. A person forms a product attitude, in this case because of what the product says about him or her as a person. For example, instead of using plastic bags, people use tote bags, and that shows they care about the environment. Ego defensive functions. Attitudes we form to protect ourselves either from external threats or internal feelings. Deodorant stress the unwanted embarrassment caused by the underarm odor. Knowledge function applies when a person is in ambiguous situations as he or she needs structure, order, or meaning. For example, not many people know chewing gum helps improve the memory besides giving fresh breath. The ABC model emphasizes the interrelationships among knowing, feeling, and doing. We cannot determine consumers' attitudes toward a product, we just identify their cognitions or beliefs about that. And let's move on to the next part.
Hello, my name is Phương Anh and I will talk about Objective 2. How do we form attitudes? All attitudes are not created equal. Consumers vary in their commitment to attitudes. The degree of commitment relates to their level of involvement with the attitude object. Compliance. If the lower level of involvement, we form an attitude because it helps us to get reward or avoid punishment. This attitude is likely to change when we are no longer monitored or when another option becomes available. Identifications. This level occurs when we form an attitude to conform to other expectations. And at the highest level of involvement called internalization, attitudes become part of our value system. These attitudes are difficult to change because they are so important to us. So let's talk about the consistency principle. The basic principle of cognitive consistency says that we value harmony among our attitudes and behavior. And the principle of cognitive did not explain the way we change our thoughts, feelings, or even behavior to make them consistent with other experience. And there's another explanation to the theory of cognitive dissonance, that is self-perception theory. According to this theory, we observe our own behavior to determine what our attitudes are. Moving to balance theory, people have different attitudes with related objects, and they will alter their attitudes to objects to remain consistent. I will take an example of this theory. A girl named Christine loves a boy named Dan. But Dan likes wearing earrings, and Christine hates boys wearing earrings. So there may be three situations. 1. Christine don't like Dan anymore. And 2. Christine begins to think that men wearing earrings look cool. Or 3. Christine tries to ignore the earrings. At the end of my part, I will talk about attitude model. Because attitudes are so complex, marketing researchers use multi-attribute attitude model to understand them. I will describe how this model works. There are 3 basic elements in this model. Attributes are characteristics of the AO. Beliefs are cognizant about the specific AO. Important way reflect the relative priority of an attribute to the consumer. For example, Australia is famous for their well-known supplement brand is an attribute, and the black mark is a well-known supplement brand will be the belief. So the important way will be many customers love evening prince oil, others prefer flaxseed oil. There's many marketing applications of this model, so that capitalize on relative advantage, stand per se product attributes glitches. Other news attributes influence competitors' ranking. So let's move to next part.
I'm Jamin, and I'm going to talk about the persuasion. How do marketers change the attitude?
Some basic psychological principles that influence people to change their mind to comply with a request: reciprocity, scarcity, authority, consistency, liking, and consensus.
Move to the first part, decisions. Tactical communications option. We just answer this question. Who will be your consumer? How should we construct the message? And what media should we use? What characteristic of the target market might lead its members to accept the app?
These models specify the elements they need to control to communicate with their customer. So, when the communications originate, message, there are many ways to say something, and the structures of the message have a significant effect on how we perceive it. Mediums transmit the message, and one or more receiver interprets the message in light of their own experiences. Finally, the story receives feedback so that the marketer can use receiver's reactions to modify aspects of the message as necessary.
Let's take a look at the update views. Interactive communication in traditional model doesn't work well. In today's dynamic world, in interactivities, consumer may have more choice available to them and greater control over which message they choose to present. And the popular strategy we call the permissionless marketing acknowledges that the marketer will be more successful when he or she communicate with consumer who already agree to listen to him or her.
Now let's move to the third part. The source of the message can have a significant impact on the likelihood that will be accepted under most circumstances. Credibility and attractiveness are two particular important source characteristics. So credibility refers to communicated expertise, objectivity, and trustworthiness. This relates to consumer belief when we evaluate competing products. On the other hand, when social skill can diminish credibility, so fast this claim might be end of commercial message. Fake news has led to many a doubt the credibilities of even the most reputable traditional and social media outlets. Marketers are now dealing with even more customer suspicion about whether what they read about a product claim is also fake news. After a while, people appear to forget about the negative source and change their attitudes anyway, and this is the sleeper effect. The native advertising is the digital messages designed to blend into the editorial content of the publication in which they appear. These messages may look a lot like a regular article. On the other hand, source attractiveness relate to the person's physical appearance, personality, social status, or similarity to the receiver. Halo effect, which occur when assumed that people who rank high on one dimension excels on other as well. This halo effect can also backfire if observers conclude that someone had taken advantage of their attractiveness. One thing is star power is non-human endorser. Now the next one is the message. A brand wants customer to see as a friend. It is more effective when the product image appears horizontally and nears the model. If a brand wants customer to see it as leader, the advertiser will better luck if it physically places the brand above the users and farther away. We use pictures to work. Basically, visuals are effective, especially when the communicator wants to influence receiver emotional responses. The verbal version affect rating on a utilitarian aspect of the product, whereas the visual version affect aesthetic evaluation. To repeat the message, repetitions can be a double-edged sword for marketer. More exposure phenomenon, people tend to like things they're more familiar to them, even if they were not that keen on them initially. Too much repetitions create fatigue and boredom. Excessive exposure can cause advertising wear out. The two factors theory explain the fine line between familiarity and boredom. How do we structure the argument? A source presents an argument and tries to convince the receiver to shift their opinion. An alternative is to use a two-sided message and refutational argument that first raise negative issues and then dismiss. This can be quite effective. This approach increases source credibility because it reduces reporting bias. The final question, should we compare our product to our competitors? Comparative advertising refers to a message that's compared to or more recognizable brand and weighs them in terms of one or more specific attributes. Now let's reach the new message format, the social media revolution. The first reality engineering occurs when marketers appreciate elements of popular cultures and use them to promotional vertical. Second one is product placement, is the insertions of real product in fictional movie, TV, show, book, and play. Third one is effortless gaming. The future is bright for ever gaming, where online gamers with the interactive advertisement that lets company target specific type of consumer. Emotional versus rational appeal. So which is better to appeal to the head or the heart? The answers often depend on the naturalness of the products and the type of relationship consumer have with it. Sex appeals. Although erotic content does appear to draw attention to an ad, its use may actually be counterproductive. Sexual appeal appears to be ineffective when marketers use them mostly as a trick to grab the attention. Humorous appeal on the overall, funny advertisements do get attention. One study found that the recognition score of humorous liquid ad was better than average. Appeal. Emphasize the negative consequences that occur unless the consumer changes their behavior or attitudes. An allegory, which is a story about the abstract state concept that advertisers tell in the context of a person, animal, vegetable, or objects. A metaphor places two dissimilar objects into a close relationship, share some quality, and the resonates is the form of presentation that combines a play on word with relevant pictures. When the consumer get it, they may refer the ad to a more straightforward message. And the store versus the message. Do we sell a steak or the diesel?
The elaboration likelihood model assumes that under condition of high involvement, we take a central route for persuasion. Under condition of low involvement, we take a peripheral route instead. It is important to remember that the same communication variable can be both the central and peripheral cues, depending on its relation to the attitude subject.
In the central root of persuasion, if people generate counter-arguing in response to the message, it's less likely they will yield to the message. If they generate further supporting argument, it's more likely they will comply. On the other hand, the peripheral route to persuasion, we take the peripheral route where we're not really motivated to think about a marketer argument. These cues include the product package, the attractiveness of the store, and the context in which the message appears. That is all of our presentation. Thank you so much for listening.